The League of Women Voters, the Montgomery Police Department, Pensions and Securities Child Abuse Division, and Store Cable. These local agencies and organizations got together today for a massive registration project. If you were 18 years old or older, you could sign on the dotted line and participate in the upcoming national election, while those younger could register in the Child Find Identification Program.
We decided that we would try and be ahead of things with other cities so that eventually we can be with the national hookup of Child Find. And that means that we can get these videos ready for missing, lost, or kidnapped children and send them anywhere in the United States and have them shown to help find that child.
We have in the city of Montgomery over 500 runaways just in the city of Montgomery a year, between 500 and 600. And occasionally one will be gone for quite some time, and it'd be very important if we was to have a child found dead, decomposed body, then we could check it with the fingerprints that we have on file.
It's important, I believe, that we get more involved in community activities, and this is something definitely that we can help out with.
Children are videotaped by Store, and the tape is kept by the police department for future use if need be. The child is also fingerprinted on a police form, but the parents keep that. Mim says the program is very effective, and it gives the parents a little comfort. Voter registrars were busy elsewhere today as well. The Montgomery County board members were back in both malls, with October the 26th the deadline. The registrars say many potential voters will wait until the last minute, and many others will leave the election of the president to someone else. Dean Argo, WSFA TV News.
We may not have everything in perfect working order. We're going
Possibility in this case?
It's definitely a possibility. This day and time on your Friday night wrecks and everything, alcohol is definitely a possibility in our area, unfortunately.
Okay. So some tests are being done about that?
Oh yes, ma'am. We've drawn the blood samples and everything, not really to prove that alcohol is involved, but possibly to rule out that he was involved. And we It's definitely a possibility. This day and time on your Friday night wrecks and everything, alcohol is definitely a possibility in our area, unfortunately.
Okay. So some tests are being done about that?
Oh yes, ma'am. We've drawn the blood samples and everything, not really to prove that alcohol is involved, but possibly to rule out that he was involved.
This was not going to be a repeat of last year's 62-point outburst. Alabama quarterback Vince Sutton, still looking like a freshman, misfired on 6 of his first 10 passes. Penn State quarterbacks completed only 8 of 22 passes the entire game. The Nittany Lions could penetrate no further than the Tide 26 in the first half, misfiring on a 42-yard field goal that hit the left upright and bounced backwards as time ran out in the first half. It was a yawner, 0-0. Enter senior halfback Paul Carruth, and Alabama's offense began to roll late in the third quarter. This Sutton to Carruth pass covered 12 yards to the Alabama 47.
The fourth quarter used to belong to the University of Alabama football team, but coming into this game, Tide opponents fared better in the final stanza. But that all changed on the toe of Van Tiffen.
Tiffen capped the 10-play drive with a 53-yard field goal on the 4th play of the 4th quarter to put Alabama in front 3-0. Inspired by the success of the offense and the home crowd, the Alabama defense held Penn State. Carruth took off around left end for 25 yards to set up another three-pointer by Tiffen, this one from 23 yards out, and Alabama was on top 6-0. The Nittany Lions had 2 chances at a potentially game-winning touchdown, but the Tide defense was up to the challenge again. Britton Cooper's interception at the Penn State 49 enabled the Tide offense to run out the final minute 17.
When you go in a football game, that's all you need is really the defense. We can score out of the defense. We can keep them from scoring, and that's our job. So, I think that we did our job, what we were supposed to do.
The offense didn't move the ball a lot, but I guess evidently we moved it enough.
Alabama's 6-0 victory wasn't very pretty, but it was a win for a team that sorely needed one.
I think they're a classy group of young men. I'll challenge anybody that differs with me, and I'm very proud of them. Thank you.
The Tide looks for its first SEC victory in Knoxville next week. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
Detroit jumped on Padres starter Eric Schau in the first. With Lou Whitaker aboard, that's Alan Trammell. Sending it deep to left field. This ball will carry into the seats for a 2-run home run. Eric Schau with a tough start as Detroit takes a 2-0 lead. Jack Morris was the starter for the Tigers here in the second inning, facing Terry Kennedy. Kennedy sends it deep to right field. This ball will head into the upper deck for a solo home run. That made it 2-1 Detroit. If you've been watching this series, you know there's been some sloppy play. Here, Lou Whitaker lines a clean single to right field, but watch Tony Gwynn. He just lets it get away. Lou Whitaker takes advantage, legging it out to second base on the error. But it really didn't matter in this case. The next batter, Alan Trammell, does it again to Eric Schau, this time with a shot into the upper deck and left for a 2-run home run. His second home run off Eric Schau. With that, Detroit had a 4-1 lead. And behind the 5-hit pitching of Jack Morris, the Tigers go on to victory. Here facing Gary Templeton. He sends him down swinging. The Tigers go on to down the Padres 4-2 as Morris retired 13 of the last 14 batters he faced. Detroit now with a 3-1 lead in the World Series. This is Scott Clark reporting for NBC News.
Well, to be honest with you, I think I was just in a daze. I knew that I hit that second one very well, and it's a special feeling. It's very hard to describe. It's just an emotional time, and I think the best part about it is coming back to the dugout and having your teammates cheer you like that. And the World Series is the ultimate, and there's a lot of people watching, and it's a special thrill for me.
On the football field, Auburn's Harold Hallman is having an outstanding year. In Auburn's victory over Ole Miss last week, the junior from Macon, Georgia had 12 tackles, 2 quarterback sacks, 1 tackle for a loss, and caused 2 fumbles, en route to Associated Press SEC Lineman of the Week honors. Not only is Harold Hallman the Tigers' starting nose guard and the strongest member of the football team, there's something also special about Harold. He's a Marine. This is the other side of Harold Hallman, who plans to enter the Marine Corps following graduation. He's been involved in the Marine ROTC program at Auburn since he was a freshman, and says his 2 activities, football and Marine ROTC, blend together very well.
Being in ROTC here at Auburn, it helps me a lot as far as discipline is concerned, and keeping up my grades and them keeping a watch on my grades, and then also football and just the everyday thing of being disciplined and being at the right place in the right time. Well, ever since my junior year in high school, I wanted to go to an ROTC and possibly be an officer in the Marine Corps.
There are not many who could combine the discipline and vigorous demands of a starting position in football with those of being a Marine. But Auburn's Harold Hallman is one of the few good men who can. From the athletic department, Mike Hubbard for Auburn Tiger Football.
Whether you realize it or not, it takes a lot of stuff to make a telephone call go through. But the noisy telephone wire most of us think of is being rooted out by a more efficient, quieter product of the high-tech age. This is a fiber optic cable. It uses pulses of laser light to send and receive messages. South Central Bell is installing miles of it underground in East Montgomery. This fiber optic cable is 25 times smaller than a copper cable carrying an equivalent volume of phone calls. The copper cable must be boosted every mile or so, sometime adding or amplifying noise the cable has picked up along the way. Fiber optic cables use pulses of light that aren't affected by moisture or electrical interference and are strong enough to travel almost 30 miles between amplifiers. The 52 hair-thin glass fibers do present a challenge to splice together. This technician is using a microscope to fuse each individual fiber into encoding and decoding equipment at the Dalrata switching office. Almost 500,000 kilometers of this type of cable has been installed in the U.S. so far. But don't worry, it'll be a long time before the phone company runs out, because the fiber optic cable is made of one of the most plentiful materials on Earth, sand. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
In honor of the 4th National Day of Unity for Battered Women, the volunteers of the East Alabama Task Force gathered at Auburn University to hear from a national figure in the Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Kathleen Carlin.
Know that we commemorate the fact that there are 778 shelters in this country and 124 safe home projects, where 10 years ago there may have been 10 shelters in this country. Now that is a quantum leap from a time when domestic violence was seen as a private affair, something that other people didn't get involved in.
Before 1980, many battered women in East Alabama had nowhere to turn. But since the East Alabama Task Force was formed, women and their children now can go to the Safe House to escape an abusive spouse and help get their lives on the right track. Safe House is run by a paid staff member and her 50 volunteers. The task force also operates a 24-hour-a-day crisis line for anyone who needs help over the phone. Shelters and crisis lines are popping up all over the country since the public has been made aware of this social problem, which has reached epidemic levels.
What is going on in East Alabama is what is happening in eastern Oregon or in Arizona or in Wyoming, or in Minnesota.
Anyone interested in the East Alabama Task Force for Battered Women should call the crisis line at 745-3837 in Opelika. Lisa Walsh, WSFA TV News, Auburn.
Bottom of the first inning, no score. With Alan Trammell on first, Kirk Gibson hits a long fly ball to the upper deck in right field. 2-run home run. Detroit takes a 2-0 lead as Mark Thurman looks on in disgust. To the top of the fourth inning, Bobby Brown, the batter. He'll hit a long fly ball to center field. Chet Lemon will make the catch. He comes up throwing. Kurt Bavacqua will score, cutting the Detroit lead to 3-2. Alan Wiggins is the next batter for San Diego. He has a base hit to left off Dan Petrie. Larry Herndon comes up with the ball. He fires it back to the infield. The ball is cut off by Petrie, allowing Wiggins to go to second base. Gary Templeton scores to tie the game at 3. Craig Lefferts pitching for the Padres in the 5th when pinch hitter Rusty Kuntz pops to right field. Alan Wiggins and Tony Quinn converge on the ball. Wiggins makes the catch with his back towards the infield. Kirk Gibson tags and scores. The Tigers take a 4-3 lead. 7th inning, Lance Parrish facing Goose Gossage. He hits a long drive to deep left field. Home run, giving the Tigers a 5-3 lead. San Diego's season came to an end in the 8th when Kirk Gibson rocks Goose Gossage for a 3-run home run to the upper deck in right. Detroit wins Game 5, 8-4, winning the World Series 4-1 over the San Diego Padres. I'm Michael Stone for NBC News.
These young people have tremendous courage, and they're tremendous people. I think the one thing we must understand, this team has as much character as I've ever seen in a sports team as people. And that's very important to me. And if this team doesn't continue to improve, there's only one person to blame. That would be their manager. Today I thought we played like we normally play, and we had some firepower because we led baseball in home runs with 187. And I was hoping we'd start showing some firepower, and we did today.
And I can't put my hands on it, but it's where they rate the Alabama congressman as to what percent of the time they voted.
The VFW has
Of those in Alabama. I don't know how it stacks up nationally.
Why would they make him part of this?
That's a very good question. And all this clutter, Nancy, I've got it, and I can't put my hands on it. But it's where they rate the Alabama congressman as to what percent of the time they voted correctly in the minds of, or in the eyes of the VFW.
On the outside, things still look fairly quiet at the festival site, the Houston County Farm Center. But inside festival headquarters, some of the hundreds of volunteers are busy at work preparing for the festival, including next week's fair. While the events take place during a 2-week period in October each year, the planning and work is year-round.
We're delighted it's here. You know, after working on something 50 weeks, when it finally gets here, you're excited, but at the same token, there's still a lot of things to be done that can't be done until the last minute.
Powell has been with the festival for 12 years. He says this year's festival, with the theme a peanut picking party, promises to be the best yet.
The Peanut Festival is basically a harvest celebration, saluting the farmer for doing his thing and growing the peanuts. And so basically we wanted something that would keep the word peanut and the peanut farmer out front. And so peanut picking was just a natural for it.
Powell estimates last year's festival brought in $8 million to the Wiregrass area. He expects that amount to increase this year with more than 300,000 people attending. Cal Calloway, WSFA TV News, Dothan.
Last year, I issued approximately 900 notices to mobile home owners who were not complying and were avoiding paying their ad valorem taxes. Very few have responded favorably. I estimate that over 70% of mobile home owners in Montgomery County are not purchasing their tags nor paying their ad valorem taxes that their neighbors who live in houses have to pay.
I thought I needed to make that change right away. To August 11th, 1984, I devoted all of it at all in so doing. And hopefully through my role in what we propose to do and what we are doing at Alabama State University, That we think there is a need for institutions like Alabama State to operate with an open admissions policy. And simply speaking, we know for a fact that all of the students who come to us don't complete a program at the university. So I don't think we'll ever get to the point where we will be burdened down with developmental or remedial programs. We do want to say that as long as we have that category of student coming with us, is that we have made the commitment to provide those kinds of services and programs.
Don't fall in the trap. Oh.
President Reagan was greeted with cheers of 4 more years today as he addressed a partisan crowd of university students, faculty, and Republican Party officials. The president said exactly what the more than 9,000 students wanted to hear. Alabama has a great football team. Everyone should be proud of America's economic progress. And if elected, Walter Mondale will raise their taxes.
I'll say again, my goal is to get personal tax rates further down, not up.
The president stepped up his new attack on his opponent. Reagan says Walter Mondale is confused on most issues, and his economic policies are as bad as can be. After his speech, the president took questions from the students. When asked about the government's financial backing of education, his response drew a thunderous applause.
We are actually, there is government help now for 1 out of every 2 students in the United States. And we have no intention of reducing that. We are also going to seek an increase in the Pell Grants, the outright grants. And we have a third program, the work-study program.
As the president prepared to leave Tuscaloosa for Macon, Georgia and Greenville, South Carolina, he delighted the crowd with his own remembrance of Coach Paul Bear Bryant. Reagan calls the Bear a true American hero. Reagan's visit, of course, was political. He says he's laid the foundation, and now he must finish the building. President Reagan says his policies, rather than Walter Mondale's, will be better for the South. And if by chance Walter Mondale is elected in 1984, that would be the ultimate Mason-Dixon line. For the president, his visit here was worth the trip, and those who witnessed it are now a part of history. Dean Argo, WSFA TV News in Tuscaloosa.
The crowd started gathering hours before the president was to speak, willing to sit and wait it out rather than risk missing a once-in-a-lifetime glimpse of a president. Security, as always, was very tight, both on campus and along the president's route from the airport, which was in places lined with people who simply wanted to wave as he went by. When Air Force One finally touched down, the president was greeted by mostly media and security guards. Only a handful of local dignitaries were allowed into the area, and the president didn't waste much time before racing off to the waiting crowd at the university. But at the very moment the president was making history there, it was pretty much business as usual in downtown Tuscaloosa. In Sue's restaurant, they were content to listen to the speech on radio.
My goal is to get personal tax rates further down, not up.
Still, for those who did get to see the president, this was a red-letter day.
He's got a good plan, and I like all the stuff that he talked about.
I liked what he said about the the financial aid for students.
And for Ed Howard, who actually got to speak to the president, it's a day he'll never forget.
I was scared. I mean, I was trembling. I don't care if I disagree with the guy on just about everything. He's still the President of the United States.
Now that it's over, one thing seems clear. People will remember that a president came here long after they've forgotten what he said, why he came, or perhaps even who was president at the time. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News in Tuscaloosa.
By next month, the four-man committee says it hopes to tell the federal court whether the prison system meets constitutional standards, as Prison Commissioner Fred Smith contends it does. But between now and then, attorneys for the prisoners and the prison system will figure out what prison conditions they agree are constitutional. The only area both sides agree on now is county jail overcrowding. Major areas where the prison system attorney Frank Wilson and prisoners attorney John Carroll still need to talk include actual living space for inmates, the staffing levels, the high level of inmates at the West Jefferson County facility, and the question of how soon to end the court case. Wilson says he personally feels the case could be over in 6 months with a year-long probationary period, while Carroll says the probationary period should last perhaps as long as 5 years. But it will be up to the four-man committee to suggest a format to end the case, with a federal court ultimately in charge of accepting or rejecting the committee's recommendation. The committee finally reacted to Smith's repeated habit of publicly criticizing it, saying his comments are demagoguery of the worst sort and just not true. Committee spokesman Rod Nachman says the committee won't be dictated to by Smith, and it will act as quickly as it thinks is prudent. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
I got you a lot of the other.
I know you have a fine team, and I know that you've been a little disappointed in part of the opening of the season, but then came last Saturday and you became lion tamers. The centerpiece of our administration is one word: freedom. I think my opponent's economic policies and programs are about as bad as they can be. And when he comes down here and says his ideas are best for the South, he's handing you the ultimate Mason-Dixon line.
Well, this year we think we've put it all together, so to speak. We've got commercial exhibits, as always, the agricultural exhibits, but this year we have a large lineup of entertainment, top entertainment. We have Monday night Con Hunley, Tuesday is Children's Day at South Alabama State Fair. Wednesday night we have Sylvia, Thursday B.J. Thomas, and Friday the Kindles.
How else to explain the second half kickoff? It wasn't great execution, it was luck, something all good football teams managed to have. Brent Fullwood's fumble bounced off of Florida State kicker Barry Barco's elbow and into the waiting arms of Eddie Graham. The receiving team can't advance a fumbled kickoff, so Graham raced untouched into the Seminole end zone.
Did you know that he could advance the ball?
Nope. Did you? Nope. Can he?
I guess he could. Offense could advance the ball.
Okay. Well, it was a fumble. Yeah, I didn't know it. I thought it was not a touchdown, but I wasn't going to tell him to call it back.
Trailing 41-36 with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game, the Tigers took over at their own 23. This time it wasn't luck, but great execution on the part of the Auburn offense that resulted in a touchdown. On 4th and 3, quarterback Pat Washington gained 6 yards to keep the game-winning drive alive.
Called his own number in the 4th and 3.
Did he call that?
Said, I think the bootleg will be good, Coach. I said, I think so, too.
The rest is history. Fullwood scored, and Auburn won the game 42-41. Saturday was a frustrating day for Penn State quarterback Doug Strang. Before leaving with an injury late in the game, Strang completed just 6 of 18 passes for a mere 74 yards.
He looked like he was off his mark there at the beginning. Do you think that was because you were putting pressure on him?
Well, I think that had something to do with it, but, he's a great quarterback and, probably just one of his bad days.
Tide linebacker Cornelius Bennett was elated at having picked off this Strang pass in the second quarter.
That's what I have been working for. I've been saying I haven't got a big play. Finally got a big play, and that really helped my confidence a whole lot right there.
Senior running back Paul Carruth didn't start the game and didn't even play in the first half, but he led Alabama ball carriers with 71 yards. More importantly, Carruth provided the spark the Tide needed offensively.
When I went out there, I saw nobody out there. I was just hoping Vince was going to throw it to me. It was a play where he could throw downfield, or if they were covered, dump it off to me. And he did, and somebody, I don't know who it was, came across and made a block. They would be cutting back on it.
Carruth's reception set up the first of 2 Van Tiffen field goals. This 53-yard effort broke the school record. Ironically, Tiffen missed a 53-yarder in the second quarter.
Didn't square up to the goalpost. I stayed faced out to the right, and I didn't get around on it. And the second one, that's all I thought about, was just getting around on it. Sure enough, it worked.
Tiffen's toe accounted for all of Alabama's points against Penn State. But Tide coach Ray Perkins gave credit for the victory to the Alabama defense.
I think our defense won the game, and I think that's the mark of when the team's about to come around to be a great football team, because the defense has to win the close.
I thought Alabama played with a great deal of poise, great deal of determination. They executed well, and as I said, they were an awfully good football team today.
That's an important time. It's extremely important that you spend that time.
We have to play harder defense and hit the boards real well to get those 40 points back.
What would you guys really hope to do towards the end of the year?
Well, my main hope is postseason place, and I believe we can go and take the SWAC. It's been a real tough, demanding preseason for the kids, and it's nothing like looking forward to getting ready for October 15th and basketball practice. The balls are bouncing all over the country this time of year, and it gives you something to look forward to every day, and we're really excited about it because we feel like we're going to have a good ball club.
The council didn't see the change in the electrical code because the man backing it withdrew it. Billy Turner, a councilman from District 2 and an electrical contractor. Turner says he's going to wait until the State Ethics Commission tells him whether it's okay for him to vote on the proposal.
I think I should be able to vote on it because I do not see where the conflict of interest.
I think that the Ethics Commission is going to probably tell him he cannot vote on it. But again, he's doing the right thing, and I commend him for doing that.
Dr. Reed doesn't support the change in the electrical code. Turner wants to increase the city bond electrical contractors must carry and make the contractors get liability insurance. All this, he says, to keep consumers from being ripped off.
We're trying to protect the consumer, the people in Montgomery, from getting an electrician who is not qualified, one that's not covered by the proper amount of insurance.
Many of the folk who are in this work said to me that it was an effort to stifle competition on the part of 4 or 5 big electricians in the city of Montgomery.
But nobody squares off on this one until the Ethics Commission makes a decision. Susan Silvernail, WSFA TV News.
But I'm not having a hard time. I just hate Christmas. I was looking for.
closer in agreements on the basic philosophy that we thought we'd be year by year. Rennie talked about his son and
Jeff never really tried, I think. But all of a sudden he got to 7th grade. In the first 5 years of his football career, every kid played the rules of the game.
Mind that we take good teachers out there now and make them better teachers.
He says, don't come at me with a system.
But the main thing is that it's up to us to find a better way to better pay our teachers. And degrees and experience is not the way to do it. They may be parts of it. But I challenge you to come up with research that says that is a valid way to pay teachers.
My desk is a quote from Prime Minister Churchill in just the darkest days of the war, when London looked like to take about 45 minutes and lead all of us through a couple of problem-solving kind of process.
I think that Reverend Toohey and Reverend Clemens are probably pointing us in the right direction. The question of energy.
Ethics officials say 2,100 public officials and employees are over 5 months late filing ethics statements, and the commission will soon ask state and local prosecutors to enforce the ethics law.
Over 43,000 officials and employees in the state who should file. Some have still not made financial disclosures. We're closing the year on them at the next meeting. If they have not properly made financial disclosure, we're going to refer their names both to the Attorney General and to the district attorney in the circuit in which they live. Now, our major problems, unfortunately, this year have been with Huntsville, Birmingham, and Mobile.
Ethics officials say a conviction for failure to file an ethics form could bring a $10,000 fine or 10 years in jail or both. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
The land is being held in common. Houses are, for the first time, being bought.
To break in at any level, to speed us up, slow us down, or steer us on a different course.
We're trying to take back an area of decision-making that really profoundly affects our lives and put this back into our own hands and into the hands of people at the local and the grassroots level.
Organizations, we have a number of...
Begin to talk about alternative ways of understanding the economy, talking about alternative solutions, because ultimately it's the people that will be affected by whatever sets of policies that are implemented.
Members of the head table.
Dr. James Martin says Alabama's biggest problem is its image.
Oh, Alabama's public education system is not universally poor, as the report implies. It just isn't. And neither is the state backward, as the report suggests many people believe. But that is the image Alabama has to overcome. To overcome this image, we must start with the top of the state's educational structure.
Martin says the state and private sector need to work together to improve Alabama's higher education system. One way, he says, would be to establish 2 matching grants, one to construct and maintain college facilities, and the other to attract noted scholars to Alabama universities.
We submit that if the state is willing to match contributions for endowed chairs, then the universities in Alabama would be able to sprinkle among our faculties a few truly world-class scholars. And a few is all that it takes to make all the difference in the world on an educational campus.
But Martin stresses that these 2 proposals need the support of the state legislature, and he says that support will prove that Alabama is serious about improving its image and providing a good education for its children. Terry Stanton, WSFA TV News.
He says, don't come at me with a system that will pay me more for doing a good job.
That is a valid way to pay teachers. So with that,
He didn't push him into it, he did it because he wanted to do it, but he's never been a very good football player.
We take good teachers out there now and make them better teachers.
Training, school board development, many of those things are integral parts of all that we're talking about.
if you prepare your seed bed well, your work's half done. Your crop's half made and planted.
Horses out of the pen, and I think that we got.
Don't come at me with a system that will pay me more for doing a good job. I know teachers want it. Most of them think, and I think rightly so, that they're
We met you too here, and I want to say that Doris Pickett is the head of the. David Rockefeller was the national chairman, and we honor Dr. Patterson. College, Negro colleges in Alabama and the country, and we do have some fine ones here in Alabama, like Tuskegee, which we're very. Have a picture with you now. I want a picture with you. Y'all too, y'all come on. Where's Charlie? But she's.
It's going to make sure that we don't have to constantly depend on the federal government to fund the colleges, and probably for the first time it's going to begin through new ideas and innovation to give the college an investment policy which will see to it that it doesn't need to do this all the time. I think that's the most important aspect of it.
Have a picture with you now. I want a picture with you. Y'all too, y'all come on. Where?
And whether the issue is budget deficits or the security of our embassy in Lebanon, I say the time has come for President Reagan to take responsibility for his record and to stop blaming Jimmy Carter for everything that goes wrong in this administration.
Great performance, illness, an infection, a virus.
I have yet to see him on television or radio or anywhere where he ever says anything nice about himself. For a person that doesn't know him, all they see is on the television, and they come out seeing a smeared negative type campaign full of distortion, half-truth, and outright misrepresentation.
Those two elements are key elements to the economic prosperity.
And the people that would take a drink and get behind the wheel of a car have come to realize that they stand to, they're taking a chance of a severe penalty and possible jail sentences where they're going to stay behind those bars for a number of days rather than have their hands slapped. I'm going to ask Paul if he'll stand and introduce those guests to us.
We're happy to have these two fellows visiting us today and try to put them on the spot, Mayor, before we let them.
Stop.
This conference features smaller computers, those that are used by the tens of thousands every day in many branches of the military and in private business. These desktop computers share security problems similar to the bigger mainframe computers, but sheer numbers further complicate the task of combating the escape of valuable and potentially sensitive information. Every electronic device emits some sort of electromagnetic signal. Unfortunately, this can often be picked up and carried by phone lines, power lines, and even metal conduit.
A small computer, like a large computer, can possibly radiate intelligent information for a great number of meters, if not miles sometimes.
And this can just be picked up by someone who might be looking for it?
Yes, if we're talking about a bad guy or an agent, then he's specifically tuned into the type of information he wants. He knows the location of it. He can record it and take it back to his laboratory and analyze it at his own convenience.
The Air Force has just signed a multi-million-dollar contract with Zenith Data Systems to provide 30,000 desktop computers that don't radiate potentially valuable information. The Tempest system features special components, seen here in red, to suppress information that otherwise might find its way into enemy hands. Right now, the Zenith Tempest system is being made for the military, but eventually small businesses that need a more secure computer system will be able to buy them too. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
Congress, and particularly when he got to the floor of the Congress, they found strange.
Your boss. So careful.
So as long as we can offer the incentive to come here, we've got the people, we've got the weather, we've got the energy rates, we've got the transportation, we've got education, we've got the quality of life, and as long as we can keep it economically secure and sound, and offer the inducement of stability that industry is looking for, there's nothing that can hold us back, and I see nothing but green lights ahead. Last week I was over there for the company picnic.
Member of the Executive Committee, other Committee on Committees of the Republican Congress.
His problems with the officials began in the third quarter. On this play, John Daly is obviously clipped. The play resulted in a touchdown. Dye protested vehemently to the official. The official told him he saw the clip, but it was not his call to make. That incensed the Auburn coach. A few minutes later, Pat Washington rolled left and scored. There was a borderline clip on the play. That same official made the call this time, and it was more than Pat Dye could stand. Before it was over, he had been assessed 2 15-yard penalties. In the post-game dressing room, he didn't want to talk about it.
And don't spoil the show out there tonight with two little old stupid things I did down on the sideline. Talk about them guys out there that came from behind in the face of adversity, that stopped all Florida State out there with 2 minutes to go in the game and got the ball back. Talk about the great thing. Don't talk about something that's ignorant on the sideline down there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, let's do that then.
But today, still savoring that 42-41 victory, he was a bit more talkative.
Did the athletic director write a letter to the head coach about his conduct last Saturday night?
I should have written the athletic director a letter and apologize for the conduct of the head coach. And I may do that before the week's over. But I guess I don't know what had happened if we'd have lost. Dr. Martin hadn't called me yet, or Dr. Martin hadn't called the head coach or the athletic director to get that done. But Dr. Emmert was on the trip with us, so maybe he relayed my apologies back to Dr. Martin and the Auburn family for.
I didn't see it, but I understand that Ben Thomas picked you up and carried you off the field.
I seem like I remember somebody. Most of the time it's Paul White. You know, Paul White is our get-back coach on the sideline. He polices the sideline.
That's
Paul
his
weighs,
responsibility.
well, he weighs about 280. He's our strength coach and strongest guy I know. But the other night, I do remember Ben, but Ben is about as strong as, or is as strong as Paul. And I was headed out on the field, and all of a sudden my feet just came off the ground, and I turned around, and And Ben said, Coach, don't go out there. So.
They gave me a call this past Saturday and said that Garcia, their kicker, had a sore leg, and they didn't know to what extent the injury was, but they almost had me come to Denver last night to kick for the Monday night game, but they never did. And he was 0 for 2 last night, and I was kind of hoping that they'd give me a call this morning, and sure enough, at about 8:15, they called and said that they wanted me to come up there.
You have been kicking?
Yeah, I've been kicking about 2 or 3 times a week. Not as much as I would if I was playing somewhere, or as much as I'd like to, but with going back to school, you know, that was about as much time as I had to permit to do it.
Who do they play this week?
They play Seattle in Milwaukee, so it'll probably be cold up there too. I hope it's not snowing.
I recall the last one you kicked in a game. Do you recall that?
I think I'll remember that one for a while. I think when I got cut from Miami, I had a good memory to fall back on. If I never, you know, was able to play again, at least I could say I went out, you know, with people having me in good spirits in their mind.
Montgomery, Alabama, October 6th and 7th, 1984.
Thank you very much. I accept this in the name of the city and will place it where it can be prominently displayed. But first, I want to say something about this group. That's the hardest working group of folks you ever saw. They made it happen. We provided the facilities, did a lot of work, but they
to get going again. When I see fellows like Mike Witt and Bob Boone and Doug DeCinza walk in here, it just rekindles all the things once more that have always gone on inside of me. And they're going on again, and I'm very happy about it.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
the Reverend Baggett said it today. Let's love one another.
Yeah. Amen.
And let's take it, men. Hey, just go for it.
All right.
I'm mighty proud of you. Enjoy this, and this is one you'll remember a lifetime. You can put this one back and tell your grandchildren about it when you're old man in gray.
All right, let's go again. All in favor.
The property. Do you have any?
Now that would be 7:25.
Okay.
Dothan, right now, is short on spaces, and will continue to be short on spaces for people to place their mobile homes.
I have to meet all the setback requirements from each individual unit drops down, comes back up. The reason I take a resentment to that is most of the major apartment complexes in this town just see one straight roof line. You see, and I can show you as many as
rural electrification program in the United States. That is the cooperatives we are living standard and to improve their earnings.
The flood you have heard that is the main hindrance for
areas of the rural country. And actually with this basic how to use electricity, how safe and to provide the safety measures.
now people ask like that's not opposition. There's there is a, as we talked about previously, there is a generation problem. We are also boosting up, but since
we all hate to see Sam go. Sam, with this, we got a little.
Present you with your weapon that you carried and your badge, Sam.
I'm still in Montgomery, and I'm not gone, and my heart's still here, and any time that I can help any of you, well, be sure and call me. I'm down at the federal building, and we couldn't beat them federal judges, so I went out there and joined them.